Okay. Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's your girl Butterfly here, and as you can see today I have a special guest, my friend Timmy.
Hi guys.
Hi guys. Anyways, so as you can see by the title, we're going to talk about the various marital regimes in Namibia. And Timmy, who I chose her because I once attended this, was it Mary something like Tavanini, where you spoke. I was very impressed, my dear. She schooled me, and I felt like it's knowledge that we can share and other people can learn from. Disclaimer: this is not a legal consult. don't make your life decisions saying that no, time is said whatever. This is just advice so that you're also aware of what is happening in our country, right? So Timmy, tell us, who is Timmy?
Timmy, well, many things, but I think for purposes of today, I'm a lawyer by profession.
Mm-hmm.
I specialize in various areas of law, including but not limited to family law.
Mm-hmm.
I am a lawyer in practice. I practice in the law firm of Sister Management Company. I'm also a director there, and yeah, I really enjoy what I'm doing. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a sister, a daughter, and the list goes on. A friend.
Okay, so I had posted a few questions on my Instagram page once for people to just ask, like, what do you understand about the marital regime, or what questions do you have? Personally, honestly, I only know of two, but we'll start off by asking Timmy, what exactly is a marital regime?
Okay, so basically a marital regime or a matrimonial property regime is the regime that governs the marriage in terms of the property, assets, and liabilities within that marriage. So it basically refers to that, to the governing principles around a certain marriage. And when parties are getting married, they have an option to choose which regime will govern their marriage. We then have three that are applicable in Namibia. We have the most common and simple one, marriage in community of property, and then we have marriage out of community of property, and then we have marriage out of community of property with the accrual system.
I think that's the one that most people do not know. I think I only learned that from that talk that you had. But I also want you to please, hopefully from the talk of this, some of our elders would understand that being married out of community of property doesn't mean you guys want to divorce. Have you ever been to church and then people announce that people are married out of community of property? People like that, like, honestly, yeah, no. Can you tell me now, can you name even one or two pros and cons of either, if any?
Well, at the top of my head, I hope I can. But I just want to say, you said that this is not a consultation, but it's also not legal advice per se.
Yeah.
It's really a conversation of what is out there.
Yeah.
And I would advise viewers to obviously consult a lawyer and not rely on this video, because we're definitely not dishing out legal advice, but just having a conversation, because I know that there are certain misconceptions in society, and we're sharing information generally. So pros and cons. I guess it depends on how you look at it, right? And I'll start with marriage in community of property. I think the pro is that it's the easiest because in most cases there's no generally there's no contract that you sign to be married in community of property. There may be certain requirements, for example, if you're getting married north of the red line in Namibia, but generally, at least on this side of the red line, you just inform your marriage officer that you're getting married in community of property. Even on the date of marriage, there's no preparation that needs to be done, no financial obligations whatsoever. So I guess that's a pro.
I have a question. If you get married on the other side of the red line, does that mean you're out? Say you don't sign anything. Does that mean you're automatically in or out?
Yes, and this is really controversial because I know there are people who understand it otherwise. But what it means is that if you are married north of the red line, without having made the declaration 30 days before the date of marriage, before a marriage officer of your intention to marry in community, then you are automatically out of community of property. So you must make a declaration, at least in terms of the proclamation. That is what is required.
Because I know of a couple apparently that only found out 12 years later that they're actually married out of community of property, out or in. But basically, they didn't do any signing of anything,
out.
And then they just found out then that they're actually out of community of property. I don't know why they were bothered, but well, I guess it's something that people don't understand because they just assume. I actually thought if you marry on the other side, you're automatically in. So if you don't sign, then you're automatically out. Okay.
If you don't declare your intention
Before
to marry,
30
yes,
days
and then
before,
obviously
yeah.
there's that declaration that the marriage officer will provide, but there must be a declaration of that intention 30 days before the date of marriage. It's a little complicated. So
if you want to get married in community of property on the red line, ideally
north of the red line.
North of the red line.
Yes.
I should make a declaration.
Yes, before a marriage
officer 30 days before the date.
Yes.
So if I want to get married 1st of July, at least by 1st of June I should have.
Yes, declared before a marriage officer. And a marriage officer is not necessarily a pastor, because not every pastor is a marriage officer. So they must have a designation of a marriage officer. So it's really, like I said.
So imagine you just go there and then you say, Pastor, marry us. But then
for the declaration, it's not necessarily that you're getting married on that date. It's that you're making the declaration because it's required in terms of an existing proclamation, which is law. So in order for you not to have disputes later, it's better if you just comply instead of coming to allege that no, but
we were married.
Because that's what the proclamation requires.
Because I remember when I went to do my will, they wanted to see like papers documenting whether we're in or out. They just wanted to see physical things, not what I was saying.
Yes, look, I think the thing is it's a little different in practice. And obviously there are other exceptions also. Once the parties are married, there's other things that have to be considered, because some actually go to court and then, the existing decisions that have been made by our courts and all of that, and I don't really want to get into that, but it's just to say that that is what is required. In terms of the proclamation 15 of 1928, it requires that parties married north of the red line must make a declaration 30 days before of their intention to marry in community of property. Otherwise, it's considered out of community. That is the basic requirement. There are various exceptions in all these other judgments that we have. Obviously, are there, but that is the bare minimum. Is that
Okay, and then the other one. You spoke about the in-community.
Yes, okay, so I said that within community, you don't really have to sign any document to be married in community of property, except obviously with the variations of north and south of the red line. And then also that at the dissolution of marriage, and I don't know if this is a pro, but I guess it's a pro, is that at the dissolution of marriage, either by death or divorce, is that you share the estate. So each one of you walks away with half. And I guess it's a pro if you haven't contributed to the estate, you still get half.
Yes.
Unless of course you are the guilty party in terms of the dissolution by divorce. But I guess that would be a pro. And then out of community of property, I guess the pro is that each party walks away with what they came in the marriage with, and so there's hardly any dispute with regards to this is mine, that is mine, because yes.
Okay. So I want us to understand the accrual system, because I think in and out of community of property, a lot of us are aware of it, but what exactly is the accrual system?
I guess accrual is just that it's what the estate. Accrual looks at what the estate has been able to accrue from the date of marriage to the date of dissolution. So basically what happens is you enter into an antenuptial contract that sometimes, not all the time, is, well, in America they call it a prenup, but the concept is the same. So the concept is to determine what the estate would have accrued, both your estates would have accrued during the subsistence of the marriage, yes. And then what has been accrued by both your estates is looked at in the dissolution. and then the estate that has more then pays into the estate that has less. Half of what is more.
Okay, give me an example. Okay, so I say I had 100,000.
Yes,
in one car before we got married.
Yeah, we take the value, the total value, the value of your car, cash in the bank, everything. It's basically the value of your entire estate. So in some cases it's stipulated in the antenatal contract that the value of your estate was 100,000, right? At the date of the
marriage.
Yes.
Okay.
And then your spouse's estate is also obviously valued, and then we take that value and it's stipulated. And then at the date of dissolution by divorce, then we take both estates and then we value them now, what they are worth. And then...
But cash we need. Like, okay, I listen has earned interest now, right?
Yes, of course. It has the ability to earn interest. So yes, but we just look at what the total of the
just everything else that you have.
Yes,
in total.
Yeah, and then we take only what has accrued. So basically, we subtract what you had at the date of the execution of the ANC. We take that out. And then what is left is now we take both you and your spouse, and then the estate that has accrued more is the one that we take, and then we take half of that.
Okay, so you can still walk away with what you had.
Yes,
and then that's what you guys got together.
Yes, actually, the whole concept of accrual, at least by some authors, is that the idea was that you must be able to take what you have contributed to the marriage, because it's assumed that when the estate in marriage grows, it's because the two of you are working together. Yes. So yeah, that is the whole concept. Yes. Nice. Yeah, I guess.
So okay, wait. Let me get this straight again. Me 100,000 at the time of marriage. My partner 200,000 at the time of marriage. 10 years later, we are separating, and our total estate together is like...
No, not your total estate together. Each one of your estates. Because you are still
okay, mine
out
by
of
then
community.
Is 300. Also, yeah. It's out of...
Yes, it's out of with accrual. So basically, we take both your estates and we still consider them as separate estates. And then I guess that's one of the pros of both in community with and without accrual, is that each of you still manage your estates as individuals and it's not a joint estate. And then so we take both your estates and then we see how they have accrued over the time that you've been married, and then the one that has the higher amount is the one that the amount that by which it has grown after you have subtracted anything that has been excluded by the ANC, any inheritance that you might have gotten that is excluded from the marital regime. Yes, yeah, then that is what is shared. Of course, the math on paper is a bit different from how I'm explaining it, because there's various considerations as to what we eliminate and whatever. But that's basically the concept, is that we take out what is excluded, and then whatever is remaining of the estates, whichever one is higher, compensates the other by half of what it has grown by.
So if I came in with less and my estate suddenly grew more, am I supposed to compensate the other person?
Yes.
And if the other person had more and then they still had more, do they compensate me?
Yes, they compensate you half of what it has accrued by after all the
because clearly it was a joint. You guys work together.
Yes, that's the.
Okay, obviously not, but not all the time. Okay, I mean, because
look, I think the dynamics.
Okay, I advised you better. I was the one who gave you good advice, and then you became a millionaire.
Or provided support,
yeah,
or whatever. Yes, yeah.
So now, if I want to get married in out of community with the accrual system, I must go to a lawyer and then I sign up, like do an ANC type of thing.
Yes. They assist you with that. Then it will be an ANC indicating that it's with accrual, and normally we include the balances of what your estate is worth at that time. Yeah. So you must actually bring your valuation of estates, and both parties must agree that this is what the estate is worth. Because, for example, if you know that your spouse maybe has a property that is not included in the value of their estate, That's the value we work with at the time of dissolution. So you have to agree that, okay, these are the balances, there's nothing outstanding or whatever. Yeah.
So actually, in a way, you can't lila the other person. If you came with nothing, you can get a compensation, but you can't get everything that they have.
Yes, you can get a compensation if the estate grows. There are instances where it doesn't grow, and that's yeah. But I'm just saying,
Okay,
it should
good case scenario.
Yes, in the best
case
case
scenario,
it should grow. But also obviously you don't stand to lose if the other person makes a loss on their estate as well. So I guess maybe that's also to be considered a pro, is that because unlike out of community of property where if one spouse becomes insolvent, it's the whole estate that's insolvent.
Out of community or in community?
In community.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because you are the one joint estate. But remember that this one you still remain individuals with your own estate. So
I think that's like one of the questions here about how can I protect myself if I want to get married in community of property and I want to like maybe I'm married to a businessman and I want to protect, or a businesswoman, and I want to protect myself. Can I still get married in community of property and find a way to protect myself? I don't know if that makes sense.
It's not makes sense. Look, with marital regimes, there are all kinds of questions which are legitimate, to be honest. But there are ways that I don't like to call it protecting yourself. Protecting yourself from the possibility of the business becoming insolvent.
Or let me say maybe protecting the family then.
Yes. I get you. And there are various ways that people can obviously do that, or I guess it would be rather to protect the assets to a certain extent.
Okay.
There are ways people can, take a certain asset away from themselves so that it can perhaps salvage a bad situation. But all those, I think, are avenues that they can explore at the time of marriage, or if they are married, they can perhaps seek legal advice in that, because a large part of matrimonial property regimes expands into estate planning and financial planning, and I don't want to consider myself an expert to render advice. I can share information that they can obviously approach lawyers who are in that area of. It can be lawyers or financial advisors who do financial planning. But by far and large, there are many things that can be done.
Because I think sometimes we don't ask the questions because we don't know what to ask.
Yes.
So you are not aware of the thing, so you
Yes.
just like, okay, fine, let's go ahead.
Yeah.
But then, in terms of, so let me get this straight. So if you're married in community of property, because sometimes you got married to a very decent and responsible person, then suddenly they're doing all these risky things. Is there a way that you can be like, okay, maybe our house will change it to my sister's name or something in case they get sued? I don't know.
Well, there are lawful ways. Because I think we should tread very carefully here, because there are decisions people make in spare of the moment, and those decisions are to when people disguise transactions to look legitimate, but in an effort to protect an asset from being taken away as part of a judgment or whatever. So I mean, look, I think there are lawful ways that people can, because those are disguised transactions, and it's a whole conversation on its own. But there are legal ways in which, for example, families protect certain assets, right? But that's with a long-term view of what if things go wrong, what if things go right, what if we are not here one day anymore. So there's a various number of considerations that's where you fall into estate planning, because you're also already planning what should happen to your assets should you not be there. How should they take care of the children that you're leaving behind, if you're leaving children behind, your parents or whoever, right? And then that's how people obviously then have family trust, is to take care of those eventualities. Then the family trust then is also included in your will, for example. So there are those considerations. But then there are unlawful and disguised transactions where you see, oh no, you know what, the economy is maybe not doing well, the business is maybe going down. This insolvency of the business may then transcend into our own insolvency. So you know what, I'm going to hide this in my sister's name, I'm going to transfer this, and that's unlawful, because then obviously creditors may take certain actions to protect their rights as well. So you know, it's a whole area of law that comes, or rather various areas of law that come into play. And I think the only thing I can say is that people must seek legal advice, and they shouldn't shy away from having those conversations. I mean, it's high time we have conversations about estate planning, financial planning, so that we just have our affairs.
Because lately decisions we are dizzy in that
things in order, but you know what? I'm not here to talk about estate, so let's just keep it to the regimes.
The other question is, like, if I don't let the bank know I'm married, which I think is also an awful thing, will I be able to go ahead and buy assets alone? Because I understand that if you're married in commercial property, you can't buy property alone, right?
Look, you can't enter into a valid contract without. And look, I just wouldn't advise someone to do that, because, like, why wouldn't you tell the bank that you're married when you're married?
What can they find? What they find out?
Because look, at the end of the day, this is a creditor, right? And they will have rights against you. And they will have rights to protect, especially when they can prove that they had no way of knowing that you are married in community of property. But you know, they also do their own searches and whatever. But I'm just saying, like, it's not something that someone should do. If we are all law-abiding citizens, you should inform the bank.
By law, though, should what is it? That in community of property, does it require that you need the other person's
consent? Yes.
Signature or whatever.
Yes. Written consent.
A car, a house.
Yes. Especially at the acquisition of assets, immovable and movable, and also because you run the risk of invalidating the contractual agreement between you and the other party. Yes, because then there's elements of dishonesty and misrepresentation.
So the person doesn't divorce you now because you're dishonest.
No. This is now
the creditor.
Yes,
whatever.
Yes. Because then you do not have the necessary authority to have entered into that agreement. So,
But if you're married out of commercial property, you can acquire it by
Yes,
yourself.
you can acquire and dispose of assets as per will. Yes, because you have 100% authority in that instance. It's your own
estate. But for good
estate.
marriages, we encourage that you talk to your partner.
Of course.
But just for the sake of the law, okay. And then someone is asking, can we change our current marital regime? Say divorce and remarry.
Oh my God.
Like, so you realize, okay, by the time I got married, I wasn't aware of all the options. But now I want to be married out of commercial property.
Why won't you aware of all the options? This is exactly why we're having this conversation, so that people can actually be aware of the options.
But like the third option, I don't know about it. Especially I think it's also we know of it like in and out, but you don't understand. That's why people make these funny comments in church when they hear a couple is out of commercial property, because they don't understand what it actually means. Like, they just think, oh no, it means like the person wants to divorce later, they don't love each other or whatever.
And perhaps we are the generation that will change the narrative, because there's many considerations.
Because there's some pastors who won't marry you if you want to get married out of commercial property, but that's a whole topic for another day. But yes, okay.
But you know what? Yes. They can do that. Yes, there are instances where people have divorced to remarry in a regime that they then prefer. But I think let's just share the information so that we avoid the unnecessary. And then there's also certain applications that can be made in certain exceptional cases where, for example, you had not signed the ANC, or there was maybe some issues with the execution, and then you proceeded to get married, you can make an application for it to be recognized in that instance, but you must have already
10 years later, within that one, within that 1 year of marriage. Like, I mean, I'm assuming there should be a timeline. I can't just come now, 3 years post my marriage, which sorry, I forgot to sign or something. Okay, not forgot, but
no, and that's why I'm saying that it should have been that maybe there was an era with the execution, and then because registration takes about 9 working days, and then maybe you went and got married and then come and tell you, oh no, we couldn't register. But in those exceptional cases, and you make an application and you show that it was within a reasonable time, that you then corrected the error or whatever. But no, it's not in every instance, and it's certainly not after 10 years or whatever time.
Yeah, no, because I think people are here now like, oh, maybe I should have done it different. Let's start over.
Yeah, but look, what I would say is that depending on the situation, nothing cannot be salvaged under whatever marital property, matrimonial property regime you have governing your marriage. Well, with some exceptions, of course, but
there's always exceptions. Oh my God, you are a true lawyer. Everything is with some exceptions. Yes.
Yes, but yeah. I think in most situations, like I'm saying, and I applaud you for wanting to share this type of information, is to say that the information must really be out there so that people are aware of the options that they have. And their right to exercise those options to make the best decisions for themselves, or to make the best decisions for themselves.
Okay. So what other questions did we have? What are the different types, and which one is best? Subjective, yes. What advice would you give a newlywed couple?
Well, look, I don't have. I don't think I have the authority to say which one is best. I think that is a personal decision.
With all the information.
I think yes. And that's why generally lawyers have to consult you, explain to you extensively the pros and cons of each, and then you make a decision, and then you come back to them and say, look, we're going to proceed with ANC with or without accrual, or you know what, we're just going to wing it, and be married in community of property, or whatever the case may be. But it's a personal choice, and each circumstances differ, and they're influenced by many things: our experiences, our career choices, many things. And then advice to a newlywed. I feel like I'm a newlywed and it's been but
get all the information.
Yes. I think get all the information. Get all the information that you need, at least regarding matrimonial property regimes. But if you're a newlywed, that means you're already married. So you should have gotten this information before. But if it's with regards to navigating marriage, I think from a legal point of view, mine would be to say getting conversations about estate planning, getting conversations about financial planning, because no matter what decisions you make, I think it's best that you have the information and the legal options available to you, so that you're able to really make the best decisions for your marriage.
Because I think sometimes we spend so much time and money planning for the wedding, but we forget to actually plan for the marriage.
Yes.
Like, just go get sick advice and just know, and also the thing is, I even feel like it's, even if you're married to a lawyer, get advice from another lawyer, because obviously maybe your partner lawyer might just
well, I'm not going to agree, because I might be conflicted in agreeing with you, but but yes, objective views are necessary. Objective views are necessary, because I mean, look, we are human beings. At the end of the day, we may be subjective in our view. I think
because now you are there struggling thinking thinking like, you know what, I want to be out of communal property, whatever, and then your partner is like comes back from now their legal team who's saying no, I want to be in communal property, then I guess the two of you at the end of the day you are the ones who have to make the decision.
Yes, exactly. I think each decision is really a personal one. That both parties must consider and agree to. Just like the decision to marry is a personal one, so should the decision of what property regime will govern your marriage be.
Yeah. And then someone's asking about cheating and divorce. I'm assuming they probably mean like, in terms of the marital regime, if someone cheats and then you get a divorce, how does it influence that situation?
Look, there is what we call a forfeiture of benefits in law, where one party is basically asked, or rather where one party seeks that the court gives them an order ordering the other party to forfeit, declaring that the other party forfeits their benefits
because they cheated.
Yes,
Okay.
or rather what we call, because they are the guilty party who has not contributed to the estate.
What if the cheater is the one who's been contributing financially? Now, what are they going to forfeit now? Because
Yeah, and that's why I say the innocent
but then is
party.
that in both cases, like in and out of community situation, or it's just okay? Obviously, to be in community property.
Yes, in
Yeah.
community, because out of community is really just certain ancillary relief that you you can get in any marital regime. Those maintenance and other things that you can prove, because with out of community of property you can still get maybe an order for spousal maintenance that you must prove that this was already existing within the marriage before the time of divorce.
Yeah. So if I get an allowance of 10,000, I must sort of kind of prove that he has been giving me this money.
Yes,
for example.
and obviously the court will not just give it to you because it has been happening, but it's sort of like to ease you into the divorce, and then there's a certain timeline, because we can all accept that your life will not be the same, but
Yeah.
you must sort of transition into the changing circumstances.
But if you remarry a poor, you lose the.
Well, yes, depending on how long the order may be for.
Oh, okay.
The timeline in the order may be for. It could be until you remarry, until there.
Just whatever terms and conditions I guess.
Yes,
that day.
yes, and obviously these are influenced by the circumstances of the party and largely by how you lived your marriage. But
But I want to understand this cheating. So if the person is the millionaire and then you guys are in community property and then they cheat, can I request that they pay me a large amount because, I don't know, they cheated most. They broke the contract of our marriage.
Look, no amount of money is going to
my dear.
sort of fill that. But what I want to understand the question is it in terms of the division of the joint estate, or additional money that you're seeking? Is it for maintenance, or just nje because
I'm assuming
job is not working?
if the question was asked regarding the marital regime, I'm assuming then I guess if it has an effect. I mean, if cheating has in terms of your marital regime, whatever, if there is any. If there's any difference, I guess, in whether you're in or out or in a crow, and
Yes, and that's
or
why
it's just divorce, irrespective of the reasons, the regime will just count for what it is.
Okay, let me not refer to it as cheating. In law, we only have one considered as the guilty party. The guilty party is the party who has led to the breakdown of the marriage. That's because our divorce law is still based on fault, so you must prove the fault of the other party.
Yeah.
But in order for them to forfeit their benefit, you must then also prove that they have not contributed. Because you can't be guilty and not have contributed and still want to share. That's the concept. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So but so say in the accrual system where now you get to be or to compensate the other person because you have more, for example, but then the other person hasn't been contributing a cent. or anything, even financially, emotionally, whatever. They were just absent. Even 2 years, you don't see them. Do they still get a compensation? But I'm also asking this because, say, like, okay, let's forget about the accrual system. You find people that, especially elders, have been separated for 10 years. And then suddenly someone passes away, or now this person who has maybe even moved on and was living their own life has to come and benefit from this person who died just because there was no divorce and they were married in community, for example.
Well, that's if they die. If they're married in community, the person is entitled to 50% of the estate. And then
even if they've moved on and they have their whole other person. But you guys didn't sign divorce papers.
Yes, you didn't sign divorce papers, and then and that's why I spoke of estate planning earlier. Is because you can either die with or without a will. But even if you die with a will and you're married in community, you can only bequeath 50% of the joint estate. So,
life no balance, guys.
I'm sure these are not the answers you want to hear, but those are some of the considerations. And that's why sometimes you find people who say, look, this is the situation that I'm dealing with. Maybe they have an aunt or an uncle who has been separated, and the advice is usually that you must sort your affairs out so that there's no ambiguity as to how the estate must be dealt with. Because, like I said, you either die with a will, but if it's in community of property, the spouse is entitled to bequeath their 50% of the estate. So you can only bequeath in your will.
Bequeath is what name? It's simple. like for fate. Like
you can only you can only divide for you are only entitled to share to give away a portion in the estate, because it's 100% estate. Each party gets 50-50. So let's say, for example, you say that there's 1 million in a unit trust somewhere. You are entitled to 500,000 of that, because at the end of the day it's a joint estate.
Yeah. The other question, since we're on the death topic anyways, it's death. This one is asking a lack of intimacy. Actually, we'll just give up. I don't even want to laugh at the question, but I wrote it there just so I can remember that someone but this is a good thing why we had to define at the beginning what is marital regime, because laughing. There's death of spouses and how it affects finances, inheritance, etc. under different regimes.
Right. Okay, so it depends on how the person dies. If they die without a will, then you do the administration of the estate is done in terms of the interstate ordinance. Interstate succession.
If you're married in community of property and you have a will that says that all your things should be left to your child or children, for example, is that still, that would be your portion, right? Since you're in community of property, and then you make a will, that must mean the things that, if you say that everything should go to your children, that must mean it's your portion.
Yes, if it's in community. Yes. That's why normally you find that couples married in community usually do joint wills. Because I don't want you bequeathing more than what you actually are able to. So
define the word.
Yes. It's so if a spouse dies without a will, right? Then the estate administration is done in terms of the interstate succession ordinance, and there's various three provisions really, that speak to how the estate must be handled. For example, if you're married in community of property, you are entitled to obviously 50% and a child's share. the math is complicated than that. But basically, is that if you're married in community of property, automatically at the dissolution of marriage by death, you get your 50% of the estate. That is counted as yours, and then what is administered is just it's basically the whole estate, but you get to keep your 50%, and then they deal with the 50%. Sorry. Marriage and commitment and death is always so complicated. And then if you are married, but the ordinance then also goes on to deal with marriage out of community of property where a person dies without a will, and what you're entitled to in terms of that. And then, so basically there's two things. There's if you die without a will, there's the interstate, because interstate means to, like, you die without a will. And then if you die testate with a will, then the administration is done in terms of the will.
Okay.
Yes.
But they're all still dealing with your part. I
Yeah,
can't say the whole
because-
house I'm giving it to Tiny. Like, no, sweetie. The house
Yes,
is not
because
yours.
it will be tiny and your surviving spouse. Yes, if you are married in community of property.
But if you're out of community property in the house, you are the one that bought it, then that means
If it's registered, yes, then it's registered in
like
your
if
name.
it's only you are a sole owner, for
Yes.
example. Or
If you are a sole and exclusive owner of a property, then you are entitled to obviously bequeath it as you wish.
Because I actually think like divorce and death are the main reasons why sometimes we get to really think about this in community order, because that time when you're seeing roses and butterflies in your wedding dress, you just want to go ahead and get married, and then you find that things are not balancing there. Navigating finances. Oh, okay, you explain the inheritance part. Okay, navigating finances together through marriage, joint bank accounts, and how to cater for each other's separate families in the marriage. I think that has to do with the marital regime, right? It's
Not necessarily. Maybe you should get a financial planner, financial advisor to come and speak about finances in marriage. Because, that seems to be a trending topic here. I think they would do justice to it. Yes.
Then this one is, how is customary or traditional marriage recognized by the law from a legal or cultural
Just
point
want
of
us to
view?
skip that whole question because I'm actually not understanding what this person is asking. How is customary traditional marriage recognized by law from a legal point of view?
I think in terms of the marital regime, maybe if you guys are married, but if you are married as a customary marriage, the whole marital regime won't count, most. It's not in community out because it's so it's about what you guys do with in your custom, your traditions and all
And
that.
the reason I don't want to answer it is because you only have about 2 traditions and 2 customary marriages. You have the people from Zambezi and then you have the people from Kunene.
Oh, in Namibia still?
Yes. Who take wives. Even some Marital, when they get married by the Holy Five, there's no marriage certificate. It's a customary marriage.
Oh.
Yes. Some actually get married in town and then they go do the whole thing.
Now, how effective is a prenuptial agreement and how extensive can it be? This is a good question, actually.
How effective is
it's effective at the point of dissolution, I'm assuming.
Yes, either by death or divorce, because it proves what the marital regime is. Look, we deal with many qualms as to what is the marital regime when there's no actual papers. But when there's an ANC, if you produce it, that is the end of the debate. So it's effective in the sense that obviously it brings certainty to what the marital regime is, and it's also effective against third parties in that there are some people who make the assumption that you're married in community, for example. Like sometimes, I see it now with banks where they ask, are you married? But then they go on to say in or out, because then that leads to the question of bring your spouse so they can consent, or okay, just produce the ANC. Then we call it a day. You can come and sign for your car or come and sign for for your house. And speaking of the cons of marriage in community of property, or rather, the cons is, I think one of the authors said that when marriage is failing, it's difficult to get consent from the other party. And I just, I found that, a little intriguing, because it is true.
Because the minute you get something for like the whole 2 weeks, and then
so you can't be
want
like, come and sign for my car.
Sure.
Yeah, but yes,
Sure.
how effective and how extensive can it be? It can be extensive so far as it doesn't violate laws. It's not against public policy, and it does not provide for something that is immoral or whatever.
So then, what are you including in the ANC, for example? Then
It's usually to exclude inheritances, immovable property. It's to just basically say, what I have now is mine, remains mine, and that the spouse has no marital power, like the husband has no marital power over the wife, and that kind of stuff. But I think parties get to determine how extensive it is. Like I said, provided it does not violate public policy, it's not immoral, and does not violate any laws.
I think sometimes you only know what exactly you would have or could have tried to put in your ANC when push comes to shove.
Yeah.
I know of a couple that had lost everything just because of this thing of, okay, they were married in community of property, and then I think it was a loan taken from the bank, and then the man couldn't pay for one reason or another, and then they came to take everything, including everything that she had before they got married. So I think for me that's a con of the in community of property, when things like that happen. So they have to start over from scratch, like from scratch. And I was like, I think that was the first time I even knew about it. I was very young when it happened. But that was the first time I knew about that in community of property such things can happen. Because now I'm like, in that situation, because what they did, I think they tried to sell some of the things or whatever, I don't know what they would ever try to do, but they lost even the house that they were busy building in. So I'm just like, in such situations, if you know, for example, that, okay, my partner is in maybe, what is those things that people borrow money from? Cash loan. Maybe cash loan business, and then they lose like 500,000 their cash loan, and then no, but then that means the other people who owed him was the person.
Yeah, but try getting your money back in a cash loan business. Like, if people owe you, they owe you.
Yeah. And then this one says, the last question is, what other marital regimes exist apart from the, we already spoke about this.
Yes.
So apart from the two common, do they have others? Because you mentioned about in Namibia, do they have other marital regimes in other countries do you know?
Well, we usually reference South Africa, and South Africa has the same ones we have, but I would not think so. Because I mean, you're either in or out, really, guys. Yes, but still out.
Still out.
Yes. So
okay, so income into property, you guys I'm going to say you guys are married income. Okay, just summarize it for us. All of them. In community of property means, and then out of community of property means, and then out of community of property with accrual means.
Okay, so I think, like we discussed, we have three matrimonial property regimes. One is in community of property. I think that's very common. Everyone seems to know and understand it. So you're in community, one joint estate. Consent is required for purchasing of immovable and movable property. It's really just one big estate, right? Joint of two people. Then
dissolution.
And then it dissolution. Each one walks away with 50% of the estate,
irrespective of what you came in with.
Yes, but obviously this dissolution looks different from what is in the textbook and what I can explain here. But that is that you are legally entitled to 50% of the estate, provided there are no other claims of forfeiture and whatever.
Keyword entitled. That doesn't mean you get. Okay, I don't know.
Yes,
depending on
yes,
other things, yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then you have out of community. Look, you come in, you go out, same, like totally. Just what you come in with, you go out with the exception of obviously certain other claims you may bring against the other person's estate. And then you have out of community with accrual. That is just to say what the estate has accrued by. The larger estate compensates or pays into
The larger party.
Yeah.
Okay.
The party with the
With the
larger
larger
estate
estate,
would then pay into the party with the lesser estate at dissolution for what has been accrued. So yeah.
You're saying out of community what you came in, you come out as you came in,
Yes.
basically. But now what was accumulated in the marriage?
If it's out of community, no, it's just out.
So so if my spouse assisted me with buying my car.
Those are stories.
Okay.
No, but like
Yes,
if your spouse assisted you, well, they assisted you, but
because I was just thinking, like, in the state sense of, okay, we're both 10,000 owning people, this now without a cross, just out of community. We get married, we suddenly become millionaires, now we're getting a divorce. And then what? Is it now depending on who? Because if we say no, this house is going to be a joint, like we put both our names on it. So that means I'll still get my
Yes.
part of the house. Even if he bought it, but it's my name is also on it.
well, the moment
Unless he proves Kucha.
No, but with immovable property, for example, is that you can buy immovable property as co-owners.
Co-owners,
Yes. And at dissolution, one of you would have to give up their portion in the immovable property, and then you get compensated.
Pay you out.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
Which also happens in community as well, because one of the spouses may choose to keep the immovable property because now both of you can't stay in it, you're getting divorced.
And
So
you don't want to sell it, so
yes,
you must pay out the other
yes,
person.
and that's why we have settlement agreements and all these other things. Is one agrees, okay, I'll keep this, like that. So I mean, look, there's textbook version, but there's the actual practice version, which is that at the end of the day, the law must come in to regulate, because no two divorces are the same.
Yeah.
And no two parties are necessarily seeking to keep the same things or having claims against the other party like that. So it's the dynamics are different depending on the marriage and what is at stake within the marriage.
Can we even just make a decision like we're in commercial property, we are getting a divorce, and we say no, and also anything, everything will be registered on the children's names?
Yes.
Okay.
When you're married, what?
You are in or out? Okay, in. And then you are
Sorry,
like,
I was stupid to say yes.
oh.
What?
You are married in commercial property, and then you are getting a divorce, and then you are just like, you know what? You are not living with this house. I'm not living with this house. The house will just belong to the children. No, but then who will live in it? Yeah, no, still, yeah.
Okay, so basically you want
The house will now be Adriel Shilongo's house. It's not going to be Elena.
Oh, okay, it's part of your divorce settlement.
Yeah.
You're married in community or property. Well, you know, certain things can happen, provided that equity is done. Because the equity and what we seek for when I say equity is that at the end of the day, each party must not lose out to what they're legally entitled to. Because in terms of law, you're entitled to 50%.
And then it's entitled.
Yeah, well,
It's really,
it's your rights within the in community. So provided that you don't lose out on that, or you obviously forfeit that, but you forfeit it in a manner that you and your spouse then agree that this is how the assets will be distributed. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I feel like I'm just hearing some of these things for the first time, but I'm glad yeah.
Well, You are hearing them for the first time because you have not consulted a divorce lawyer. And you should hope you never have to. But really, it's just to say that there are many things that happen, and some of us come to know of them at that point. But it's always good to have the information out there, because there's also great misinformation that keeps people either away from consulting lawyers because you have already been told that this is what the
Maybe
case
they're
may
afraid
be.
of paying for NCs, which I expensive. But can't we just write our own paper at home, go get it stamped at the police?
It must be done by a notary. That's we try.
Yeah, no, okay, fine.
Yes.
Which was even back. But anyways, in conclusion, so when newlywed, they must seek proper legal advice. I'm not newlywed, if you are planning to get married, get proper legal advice. Oh, you're going to be an 8 But anyways, guys, thank you for having Timey here. I hope you learned a thing or two. I really learned a lot. Like she said, because I haven't consulted a divorce lawyer, so I don't know some of these things. But yeah, please do like, share with your friends that are getting married or in preparations for your wedding or their weddings. And don't forget to subscribe from me, Alina, and Timey. Goodbye.